So a survey came out saying that over the course of their careers, women doctors earn $2 million less than men doctors. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. If you share my concerns, maybe you could like this video and subscribe to this channel, maybe even click that little bell that will notify you when I post something new. So we've kind of reached an impasse on the debate over lower pay for women than for men. On the one hand, the gap has narrowed slightly. Now the gap, when you simply take the pay that women receive versus the pay that men receive, is about 21%, with women earning 79% to what men earn on average. Then what happens, though, is that economists, especially conservative economists, will take that gap and then adjust it, where they will say, well, women tend to work fewer hours than men on average. Now, a large part of that is probably due to the fact that women still are the ones bearing the bulk of the child care and family care requirements. Even in this relatively progressive era, men still are content to sit back and do nothing while women are the ones who run the house. Women also tend to be ones to take periods off from their career. For example, when they give birth to a child and they want to spend the early years of the child at home with them. That gap in their careers, again, is overwhelmingly taken by women as opposed to it being taken by men. Furthermore, they adjust the pay based upon the occupations chosen, and they say, well, hey, look, women tend to choose occupations that are lower paid than the occupations that are chosen by men, and as a result, it's inevitable that women will be paid less than men. If they just chose these more competitive professions, then they'd earn more money, right? That's the argument that's made. And then there's one final adjustment that's made, which is for education, which is ironic indeed, because at this point, women are better educated on average than men. Our colleges, in fact, are overwhelmingly female-dominated at this point, with many of them being as much as 60% or more female. But at any rate, what the economists will do, especially conservative economists, is that they'll say, well, hey, look, there really isn't a pay gap, because of the fact that when we adjust for these differences, women are actually paid as much as men, right? Or at least, according to the data, that they get 95% of the average pay of men. Sounds pretty good, right? So they poo-poo this whole argument of, oh, women need to get equal pay for equal work because they're not doing equal work, obviously, right? Well, hold on a minute, because that is ignoring a whole other part of the story. Yes, these economists, especially conservative economists again, have managed to take the data and mathematically show that it appears that women actually are getting favorable treatment relative to men when it comes to their pay. And I can already hear the arguments now in terms of why women doctors are paid less than male doctors. I mean, after all, women doctors tend to choose specialties like pediatrics or family medicine, whereas the higher paying specialties, things like surgery or cardiology, tend to be dominated by men. Similarly, again, women doctors will take time off in their careers for child rearing. And in fact, I have this situation right now with my doctor, who's a wonderful doctor, but she's hard to get in to see because she really only works part-time. She wants to spend some of her time with her family. So the response of these conservatives would be, well, obviously she's going to be paid less. She's in family medicine, which is a lower paying specialty. She took time off to spend with her kids when they were first born. She doesn't work as many hours as many of her male counterparts because she wants to spend more time with her family. Obviously, she's going to be paid less than men. But this response ignores the fact that the system is set up in such a way that women are going to be essentially forced into these choices that are going to result in them being paid less than men. Let's just take a couple examples here. For example, just about every developed country other than the United States has some type of parental leave. This parental leave can be an opportunity for women to take time off from the workforce to take care of their children without suffering a commensurate career penalty. But almost even more important than that is the fact that it also allows men to take time off. In America, even if one of the family members takes time off to take care of the children, the other one has to work to be able to support the family. This creates a dynamic where, in most cases, the women are going to be the ones who take time off while the men continue working. especially given the biological differences between men and women, namely the fact that women are the ones who can produce the milk that the baby can drink. In the United States, you're going to see a much higher percentage of women essentially putting their careers on hold for a period when their children are young, as opposed to men. That is something that will hurt their career earnings and will also reduce the ability for them to advance in their careers. During the time that the women are off taking care of the children, men will be working and getting promotions, and then when the women go back into the workforce, they'll be behind the curve then compared to their peers. So having better parental leave laws here in the United States, and really childcare that's more readily available, both things, by the way, that are included in the president's Build Back Better plan, are both things that would help address this pay inequity by changing the system at least a little bit to make it easier for women to be able to continue in their careers and to work hours that would allow them to gain the same promotions that men get. The other big issue is choice of professions. And they'll say, hey, look, your doctor's a family medicine doctor. She's going to inevitably pay less than someone who's a heart surgeon. But the problem is, it doesn't have to be that way. We've set up our system in such a way that it essentially rewards male-dominated professions more than female-dominated professions. I mean, why do you think it is that teachers are paid so little? It's not that they have low levels of education. It's not that they're not doing an important task in society. It's that traditionally, this has been a field that's been female-dominated. So there's been less pressure to increase wages. I mean, it's not all that long ago. Indeed, during my lifetime, when it used to be common for bosses to say, hey, look, I'm going to pay the man more because of the fact that he has to take care of his family and the woman doesn't. That was a common view back in the past, openly expressed. Now, saying that out loud would be illegal, but I'm sure that there are still people who believe it. Nevertheless, the system that rewards certain professions that are more traditionally male versus certain professions that are more traditionally female is set up in such a way that the more male-dominated professions are going to be the ones that are paid more. And think about it. Does that make any sense? Does it make sense that, for example, taking care of our children would not be something that's as highly compensated as helping extend the life of an old person? I mean, worrying about the health of our children and the education of our children should be something at the top of our list of priorities. That's our future, after all. And yet, those are the professions that are compensated at the lower levels. Again, you have to ask yourself why. And the reason is those are traditionally female-dominated. So when you hear this response of, oh, there really isn't a pay gap between men and women, don't believe it. This idea of adjusting the pay differential to make it seem like there is no pay gap is just another way of covering over the system that we have created, which essentially punishes women for the expectations we've put on them as a society and rewards men for the expectations society has put on them. Until we change those institutions by providing options to women in the form of parental leave and better childcare, and adjust the expectations in terms of certain professions where maybe teachers are paid a little more money and maybe pediatricians are compensated at the same level as heart surgeons. Until we address those differences, then the gender pay gap is going to continue. Well, up here, I'll post another video that talks about the challenges women are facing in this era right now. And if you could like this video and subscribe to this channel, I'd sure appreciate that. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.